I'm Maggie. I'm a licensed clinical psychotherapist with degrees in psychology, theology, and marriage and family therapy, a national certification in dialectical behavioral therapy, and a national certification in integrative mental health. In this video, I'm not looking to diagnose anyone. I'm only willing to offer insight into situations like these. Hello. Welcome to Pivot Point Wednesday. It's a happy Wednesday. All right. Did you guys know that 70% of people report that they struggle with a toxic belief that limits their potential and their happiness? 70%. God, that's 7 out of 10. That's a lot. These are invisible barriers that hold us back. It affects mental health. It affects personal freedom. It affects happiness. So today, we're going to talk about something that affects all of us, apparently, our toxic beliefs and patterns. Okay, but first, let's say hello. Favorite Auntie is here. Hi, Auntie. Thank you for being here. Leon's here. What up to you as well? And to those watching, hi. Hope you're having a good Wednesday. So let's talk about this topic. Toxic, the word toxic is thrown around a lot. It seems like a lot of times, and this is a pet peeve of mine, there are words that exist in psychology and mental health that somebody gets a hold of, and then they start using it to beat other people over the head with. You're toxic, right? But it comes from psychology, okay? And it just means somebody's like poisonous to you, Maybe there's really nothing wrong with them per se. But when you two are together, what was that superhero show? It had Will Smith in it and that other blonde-headed lady, and they're like, was that Hancock? I think it might have been, where when they're around each other, they start losing their powers, all the bad stuff starts happening. That's toxic. Okay. So when we talk about toxic beliefs and patterns, these are toxic beliefs and patterns that you keep cycling through over and over and over again that are like poisonous to you, right? It just doesn't sit right with you. It causes problems. Okay. Adrian's here. He says, let's go. All right, let's do this. So let's go back in time a little bit. Psychology, when it first came about, was really heavily focused on understanding the human mind. So before Freud and his contemporaries were talking about the mind, nobody really thought about thought. Isn't that odd? Nobody really considered the mind. Okay. Some people say this is where our theory of gods come from, because we would have thoughts or things play in our mind, and maybe people thought the gods were giving them messages when it was really just them thinking something. It was an interesting prospect. All right. So Freud, Jung, Adler, they begin to map out the mind and how what we think and what we feel affects how we behave. Okay. So if we fast forward to today, modern psychology and mental health talks a lot about toxicity. So like toxic relationships, toxic self-talk, toxic behavior, right? It's all rooted in negativity and self-limiting beliefs. And these things trap us in where we are, and it holds us hostage in our own minds. Sometimes that toxic thought is just like, I can't. And literally, I've told you guys many times, you are the main character. You can do whatever you want to do. There's repercussions, but you can do. Okay. So, I want to see what Leon says. Toxic masculinity entered the public 2009 with Facebook going public and Twitter. The women graduated from college and went straight to Twitter and Facebook with toxic masculinity. I love those days. And you know what? Just as much as there's toxic masculinity, which is there was already a phrase for it, it's called misogyny. Um, there is toxic femininity, and I've talked about it on this channel before, which is called misandry. So anything can be toxic, you know? And people who go around beating other people over the head with toxic masculinity are probably pretty toxic themselves. They're not really saying these things to make things better or to help men in any way. And so, like I was getting ready to say, these beliefs can be dangerous, right? It keeps us stuck in unhealthy cycles. I forgot to pull up my, let's see. That's what I want. Okay, let's get that pulled up. Nope, that's not what I want. I'll get it right. Okay, let's get the right one. Oh, there it is. I was going to say. I know I did it. Okay, so let's talk about some toxic beliefs. So the first one that most people have struggled with, at least in some point in their life, is I'm not good enough. So this is rooted in self-doubt, constantly questioning our worth. You know, am I the problem? Am I not good enough? Um, did I do something wrong? Did I do that? Right? People who struggle with the thought I'm not good enough are also over apologizers. You guys ever met over apologizers or struggled with over apologizing yourself? Because, and that is tied to worth. Like if anything goes wrong, I better apologize immediately, right? So whether it's in relationships or careers or whatever, it stifles our growth. Okay. I don't deserve success. I'm a failure or whatever. If that sounds familiar, sometimes we think, oh, yeah, I deserve success because our upper level brain is telling us that. But then we stop ourselves just short of being successful. We don't finish the project. We don't start the relationship. We don't jump into something. We don't take risks. Even if I deserve success, because there's something in there about I'm going to fail, or if something can go wrong, it's gonna go wrong. Those kind of things. So it's the fear of failure. This can also be tied to imposter syndrome, where even though like everything in reality says this is great and it's going to be great and everything's going to be fine, we feel like we're faking it, or like if people really knew, or somehow it's just dumb luck. Like nobody actually knows the real me. They all think I do this great stuff, and I really don't. I don't know how I got in this situation. That's imposter syndrome. Okay. It stops us from taking risks. It keeps us small. You don't ever take a risk, you don't ever get the big joys. You know what I mean? Or what about like when other people's opinions kind of define you, like I'm this and everybody knows it, or everybody thinks I'm a whatever. Um, we live in a society that is very ego driven and kind of obsessed with comparison. And if you guys don't know the phrase, comparison is the thief of joy, put it in your vocabulary, because comparison is the thief of joy. But that's literally the society we live in. It's very ego driven. It's very comparison, right? This belief leads us to seek validation from other people instead of focusing on doing what we think is right or what we want to do, or just our own journey through this life. Again, you're the main character. On your deathbed, you're not going to be like, but I got 1,000 likes, you know? Um, so it's toxic. What other people think of you can't define you. Only you can define you. Or like, I can't. I can't do anything about that. I can't leave this situation. I can't go over here. I can't change my circumstances. All this believing that you're stuck and that life is happening to us instead of through us. Like, who is in the driver's seat, you know? If you guys seen that meme where it's like Jesus and a picture of all his wheels that he's taken, it's really cute. But who is driving your life, right? If you feel like you are suffering life or life is happening to you and you're just waiting for the next shoe to drop, you're not driving your life towards where it is and what it is that you want to do and see and be and have, then yeah, life is going to continue to happen to you because you're doing nothing about it. Okay. If you're a passive participant in your life, then yeah, a lot of things are going to happen to you. If you're in the driver's seat and you're making plans and you're deciding what happens and you're making changes because you feel like that's right for you, then a lot less things happen to you. Not that it won't happen, but a lot less things. Okay. Another one, I can't be weak, can't be perceived as weak, can't be seen as weak, can't be vulnerable. Always have to be strong, strong, strong. I mean, how do we hear that? Strong man and a strong woman, and I'm a strong, independent woman, right? We feel like if we show weakness in any way, like we will be rejected, right? Whether that's through being made fun of for being vulnerable, calling people Sissy and Jane and, all these things are a girl, or people just won't respect us. Yeah. But there's a time for strength and there's a time for vulnerability. So because vulnerability is seen as a weakness in our culture, it stops us from forming real, honest, authentic connections because that comes from vulnerability. Adrian says, nope, I've never over apologized. Cutting up with the Joneses is in here. Hi, Will. How are you? Hope you're doing well. Thank you for being here. But each one of these toxic beliefs stems from a core fear. So if you guys haven't heard about core fears, there are specific fears that come from the heart of who you are, the core, okay? So fear of failure is one, fear of rejection, fear of judgment. All of those things are core fears. And you'll notice when fear mongering happens, it plays on some of these core fears. So another one is a fear of danger, like physical danger, right? So fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of judgment, fear of pain. And they're deeply ingrained in us. Obviously, they have a survival instinct in there, right? Like as humans, we wanted to be averse to failing things. We needed to be averse to being rejected because we needed to live in community. And in living in community, we had this fear of judgment and, of course, fear of, not being physically safe. That's pretty important for survival. Okay. Now, these fears these fears can get activated in childhood about our failing, especially if our parents were very unforgiving about failure or about not even failure, but you got to see, which is not failing, but, or we were rejected by our parents or by adults in our life. We were judged by people, then those get activated very young, and then it becomes part of how we develop our personality. Hi, Dominic. Thank you for being here. Namaskar. Okay, so let's get into a little more how this can happen. Okay, so overly critical parenting, by any authority figure, but overly critical parenting. So like being scolded for mistakes in school, being scolded about sports or anything you did in the home. It was never right, or being like made fun of and clowned about it, being called names. Um, those things create this overcritical parenting if everything was met with not good enough. Okay. Lack of emotional support. So you're only allowed to have so many feelings. Don't cry or I'll give you something to cry about. Or, you know, parents who do something hurtful. And then when you have an emotional reaction about it, they force you not to. And it's only to save themselves. They don't want to have to attend to the repercussions of their actions. So they teach children, parents have taught children very young, I can do what I want and you can't say anything about it or even make me feel bad for being an a-hole to you. Okay. So, not getting that emotional support and validation, we develop that feelings of inadequacy or not feeling worthy or feeling unworthy because it's rejection. Okay. Social rejection and bullying can also do that. So, as we're children, middle schoolers, high school, a lot of what we're trying to learn developmentally is about social connection. So if we go through a lot of social rejection or bullying, that can also create these belief patterns. Pressure to succeed, that's kind of the same as the first one. Um, Unpredictable caregiving. So this is another one where like mom or dad or both are like good today or good right now, but tomorrow they're going to be all over the place or everything is fine. And then all of a sudden somebody's yelling and screaming and, you just can't predict what is going on and how the parenting is going to be from moment to moment. So you could have parents who are emotionally available and kind and will talk to you about things and talk you through things when you're having a hard time. But then some other time you could set them off and then they're angry and they're yelling and and so we develop this feeling that relationships are inherently unstable. So this leads to like some people pleasing, right? I've got to do everything right or people will leave me or really hurt them, or like I can't do things to other people that make me feel the way I used to feel when things were unstable. And so I'm just going to, if I make sure everything's perfect all the time, then I don't have to worry about that. Okay. Shaming and public embarrassment. When children are shamed in public or social settings, they internalize that, right? Making mistakes leads to humiliation. So again, I have to be perfect all the time. And so any little teeny tiny failure or mistake is devastating. Okay. We have cultural and societal conditioning as well, where society will tell a group of people who they are and what their worth is. And unfortunately, because it's part of indoctrination, it's societal and cultural conditioning, we internalize it. Oh, this is who I am. Okay, sure. And the rest of the world may see who these people actually are, but internally in the group, they internalize that social conditioning, right? And of course, there's always traumatic events will create some toxic beliefs and patterns, right? Um, we also have biases that skew our perception of reality, right? So biases are kind of mental shortcuts, unfortunately, based on our perceived experience that now we see the world kind of through a distorted lens. It could be things that our parents taught us or things that our friends told us, but it really leads to this flawed judgment about people, about situations, or even about ourselves. And our toxic beliefs or our biases prevent us from seeing the truth clearly, right? And then we're making poor decisions based on assumptions rather than facts. And after this political season, making decisions based on assumptions instead of facts was like the name of the game. You know, that is just what was happening. Um, so there's just a few here. We have confirmation bias. We only seek information that supports our existing belief to reinforce our toxic patterns. Um, we look for things that reinforce our negative self-talk. Like if I think I constantly fail, then I'm going to be unconsciously looking for things that to show I'm a failure. Okay. Instead of looking for things that show something different. Um, we have biases that limit our empathy and connection with other people, like stereotyping, prejudices, racism, all of those kind of things, misandry, misogyny. It creates barriers between people because we get this very rigid, biased viewpoint of certain groups of people when we all know that it's very flawed, right? It's very flawed. We just are devaluing people based on these biases, right? Keeps us stuck in fear because they can always say, oh, those people are doing the thing, these people are coming over here to harm you. These people are going to do this. These people are going to do that. And it gets us to infighting with each other, right? We don't have that like self-awareness and accountability. And then if you add in this fear of vulnerability, right? This fear for your safety when they're activating all of our biases, then you get what we've got. Everybody's fighting. They're going to die on every hill. Their political candidates are the risen Messiah. It gets a little crazy making. That was what I was trying to think of. So, how are some ways that we can recognize these patterns? So, the first one is pay attention to your inner dialogue. Like, how are you speaking to yourself? What are you saying to yourself? If your inner shadow is an a-hole, then there's probably some toxic beliefs, probably from early life experiences that would be good to attend to because the way your shadow talks to you is the indicator for how you live your life. Because unfortunately, you're taking those things into consideration with the decisions that you make. As logical as you try to be, you're still going to take those beliefs and patterns into consideration first when you make decisions and when you try to do things. Okay, so pay attention to that inner dialogue. Okay, look at the recurring patterns in your life. Do you keep getting in the same relationship? Do you keep having the same problems at work? Do your friendships all end up the same way? Do you keep having these particular people around you? Are there patterns where you try this and it keeps failing and it keeps failing and it keeps failing? Why? Why is that? What is this pattern? Do you continuously find yourself, no matter how much money you make, you're constantly broke? Now, some of this is inflation and eggs are expensive. Okay. But look at those recurring patterns in your life, right? Notice where you feel stuck and anxious. Okay. Often that's a sign of where things are holding you back. Where do you feel stuck? And if you feel stuck in a situation, there's a belief behind that that is keeping you stuck. Okay. Where does your anxiety come from? What are the things that trigger the anxiety? Then you have a belief or a pattern behind it, right? You have to ask yourself, is this actually true? Like instead of trying to shove down everything that your unconscious or your subconscious mind or your shadow is yelling at you, instead of trying to ignore it, let's actually have a conversation. Is it actually true? Where does it come from? Is that actually what I actually think? Okay. Most of the time, the answer is no, it's not true. Okay. can always journal too, to recognize those destructive patterns, because sometimes we don't see it when we're in it. And so if we journal and we're writing it out and we kind of look back on how life has been, then we're able to find those patterns. Hi, Rocky. Thank you for being in here. So here's the truth, okay? We live in an ego-driven society. That's just where we're at. Everybody is an ego. Like, we're obsessed with appearances, right? And many people avoid the inner work because it involves discomfort and vulnerability. It's easier to slap nice clothes on it or makeup on it or nice hair or cologne, pretty selfies on the internet than to actually do anything about our inner world, right? Like, we hide behind the mask of our ego, showing only the best parts of ourselves. Then we get that external validation, oh, you look so pretty. Oh, your family's so amazing. Oh, your car is so nice. Oh, and then we're like, see, I don't have to do any inner work because look how many people think I'm great. We avoid the accountability and the responsibility for our own growth. If we're not happy, the only person that can change it if you're not happy is you. You have choices. It's not about whether other people do or do not do things. People are going to do what they do. People all the time. And sometimes peopling is really annoying. You can't control that. People show you how they are, right? Especially if you ask for things or you say, hey, change this behavior, or can you give me X, whatever. And you've asked a few times and it doesn't change. Well, then that's who they are. And you make decisions based on that. But you're the only one who can make those decisions. Okay? You're the one who can do that. If you're not happy, change it. Adrian says, yeah, but what if your car is actually nice? Which one? Listen, I put new wheel covers on this weekend, so my car is still a little putt-putt hatchback car, but it doesn't have that third wheel that doesn't have any cover on it because it fell off and I ran over it. Okay, so real transformation, moving from a toxic belief to a mindset of freedom and feeling power, starts with being honest with yourself. You may want things to be the way that you want them. Like, I want to be, I'll speak for myself. Let me think of something. I want to be 5'8", right? And I can really want that. And I can pretend and pretend and pretend and pretend. But that's not happening. I am an adult. I am not growing 6+ inches. It's not happening. So I can just be real with myself and then embrace the fact that I'm not tall. And it's okay. Because by God, when you need things out of the low cabinet in the kitchen, I'm right there. I can already get it. I'm super close. Okay. So be real with yourself. You're the one who can fix it. You're the one who's keeping you stuck. Think about those inner beliefs and patterns. Think about what you actually want, not what other people want you to want, not what you're afraid to say out loud, not being afraid to hurt people's feelings or make them angry or they will leave you or whatever. If they leave you because you speak the truth and because you're honest with what you want, then you need them to actually walk away. You need that. No matter how much you love them, you need them to walk away. If you speak your truth and it makes them walk away, that means you're not important to them. So, and it's hard. My God, it's hard. But once you get started with that being honest, being authentic, being who you are, you just want to do it more and more and more. You get very used to it. I'm still working on it. Sometimes it's hard to say the hard thing. That's why I press you guys too. Say the thing, do the thing, be real, be honest, be authentic. Because that's how we all get to this like freedom, and we get away from these stereotypes and prejudices and biases and all those kind of things. You just have to ask yourself, are you willing to face the hard truth, or you just want to keep doing what you're doing and being, not happy, right? Are you going to make the tough decisions and let go of the patterns and let go of the I'm stuck and I'm supposed to be here? If you're stuck, if you don't like your job, whatever, and you're stuck, you can do things. Look for other jobs, apply other jobs. If you have another job offer and then you talk yourself out of it because you're stuck in your job, that was on you. Okay. So whether it's like self-doubt, fear of failure, all of these things stem from deep-rooted fears that form during childhood, in our young life, and reinforced by society. It traps us in a cycle of fear, frustration, stagnation, and society plays on it. They don't want you authentic. They don't want you empowered. They don't want you honest. They don't want you critically thinking about things because that's hard to control, right? And we live in a society that wants to make money, which means we all just need to be focused on working and staying in our cycles and reading from our scripts. So that's why I say freedom comes from not doing those things. So the journey to overcome these patterns is ongoing. Okay. Every step you take, though, is a step closer towards that freedom, authenticity, and fulfillment. Are you going to mess it up as you're making these changes? Of course. But don't let the fear of failure tell you, I can't even do that right. Just every little step, every chance you get to be as honest as possible, do it. Every chance you get to speak authentically, do it. Every chance you get to advocate for yourself, your feelings, and what you want, do it. Do it. That's how we get to where we need to be. Okay, tonight we are doing the after show at the Patreon. So the Patreon link is on the banner on the bottom. So we're going to do Let's Get Weird and Tinfoil Hat over on Patreon. It is for all members. So I have the option to have a free membership or a paid membership. It's up to you, but this is open to all members. So this includes people who are free members. But I just want to be able to get weirder and do more tinfoil hat stuff. And I have more freedom over on Patreon. I want to say the thing. So, here, let me take this down. Let's stop sharing. Okay, here I am. Okay, so we're going to go over to the Patreon. Give me, what time is that? Yeah, give me just like 5 minutes. I will put a private YouTube link into the Patreon. And then you'll be able to click that private YouTube link and we'll finish the show. So coming up though, next week, next Wednesday, we'll have Psyche versus Logos, which is, kind of emotion versus mind, or the mind versus the brain type thing. This is a philosophical debate that's been going on for a long time. There's not going to be a show this Sunday. I'll be traveling. So next Wednesday is Psyche versus Logos, but a big one a week from this coming Sunday. So on the 24th, that Sunday is going to be the Great God Debate. And we are going to debate about God. Okay. Leon says he's picking up his son and he'll be listening in the background. Okay, so we will go over to the Patreon And hopefully I see you guys there. But until then, I'm going to show you a picture of my dog. Please like the video if you haven't already. It really helps the algorithm to know what kind of things you like. Share where you think it's appropriate, especially to someone who you think needs to hear it. And don't forget to check out some of the wilder Pivot Point Wednesday shows. And last, don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, especially if you want to break down complex concepts that make the esoteric not so teric, helping you on your journey to become your most authentic self. By subscribing, you'll join a community that thrives on curiosity and growth, and you'll never miss out on insights and some wild discussions. Let's uncover the universe together. Bye.